From the horrid halls of our junior high schools to the hallowed halls of the United Nations, from the floor of the Senate to the floor of the preschool, from the boardroom to the bedroom, from the highway to the subway. Conflict is part of our human existence. Nations fight over land, and boys fight over girls. Husbands and wives fight over money, and brothers and sisters fight over toys. As Rodney King cried out over 20 years ago, why can't we all just get along? Let me start with a painful truth. Most of the emotional damage in your life doesn't come from enemies. It comes from people you once trusted, people you were close to, people you once hate from the same place together, people you expected to understand you. In other words, family. The family is the smallest unit of society, yet it plays a vital role in getting along with the society we live in. And since the family is so important, we should do everything possible to strengthen the family unit. Because if you don't learn to get along within the family, it becomes 10 times harder to get along with the general public. As the saying goes, charity begins at home. The family is a lot like a DNA strand. As long as everything is in its right place, everything is fine. But if something gets out of alignment, problems occur. And what makes it even worse is this: most broken relationships doesn't break because of something huge. They break because of something small that was never handled, or handled carelessly. A comment, a misunderstanding, a moment of silence that lasted too long. And over time, that small thing becomes a wall that blocks us from getting along. There's an old line I once heard: to live above with people we love would be wonderful, but to live below with people we actually know, that is another story. Because in theory, we all believe in kindness, we all believe in forgiveness, we all believe in patience. But in practice, we get offended, we get defensive, we get resentful. And somehow, the people closest to us become the people we struggle with the most. So today, I want to talk about why conflict is inevitable, why most of us handle it badly, and how to repair relationships without losing your dignity or your peace. Not as a sermon, not at all, not as a lecture, but as a human conversation about how people hurt each other and how they heal. So let's get into it, shall we? Why conflict is inevitable. Here is the truth we have to accept. Any environment with human beings in it will eventually produce conflict. Not because people are evil, but because people are different. Different values, different upbringings, different sensitivities, different wounds, different expectations. Most offenses are not even intentional. Someone says something careless. Someone forgets something important. Someone reacts from their own pain. Picture this: your arm is attached to your shoulder at the joint to function properly. In the same way, when you have a soprano, a tenor, a bass, and alto all singing the proper note, their voices join together to create one sound, one song. In the musical world, it's called harmony. If everyone sang the same notes, we'd have boring unison without any fuller, more harmonious sound. In a society or relationship, you have basses, sopranos, tenors, altos, all singing different notes. That is, you have different people with different backgrounds and different ways of looking at things. There will never be boring unison, but neither should there be continual discord. And even if there is discord, what causes the discord? Don't they come from our own desires that battles within us when we let our selfishness, personal preferences, and our own opinion take priority? Chaos and conflict are inevitable. We want to do things our way, and our motives are often suspiciously self-centered. We are quick to point out others' faults and ignore the log in our own eyes, the real goal of conflict. When someone wrongs you, your first instinct is to do one of these three things: avoid them, attack them, or broadcast it to everyone else. But here are principles I learned, and they are still working for me till date. The goal of conflict is not to prove you are right. The goal is to prevent loss of trust, loss of connection, loss of something that once mattered. And you may be asking yourself, how do I prevent such losses? By understanding that communication is the most rewarding and the most risky aspect of getting along. By far, the most difficult problem in relationships is poor communication. Whether we are talking about marriages, parenting, business, partnership, you name it. The one area that is most often tagged as the culprit in relational difficulties is poor communication. How we communicate with one another makes all the difference in the world when it comes to the quality of our relationships. Most conflict or misunderstandings are not even about truth. They're about ego. They're about control. They're about making sure the other person pays. But let's address that by learning these 3 principles. 1. Be quick to listen. Not just quick to hear, quick to listen. Listening involves not just the syllables and words. It involves hearing the heart. A person who has truly listened should be able to repeat the message back to the speaker with clear understanding. Let me give you a proverb. He who answers before listening, that is his folly and his shame. When we fail to listen, all kinds of problems occur. We misinterpret, we jump to conclusions, we demonstrate a lack of respect for the other person. You and I will never enjoy the panoramic vistas our relationships have to offer if we don't become good listeners. There's a husband or wife watching me right now who could dramatically improve their marriage if they would practice listening. There's a parent or child who could enter a new level of love and trust if they would listen. There are brothers and sisters who, by listening, could come to understand one another and strengthen their relationships. 2. Be slow to speak. This is a flip side of being quick to listen. You cannot talk and listen at the same time. This implies a thoughtful response rather than a quick emotional response. I'm not telling you to be silent and turn into a drama. I'm saying be slow to speak. We need to speak or there's no conversation at all. But we need to speak wisely and thoughtfully. Here's a proverb. Reckless words pierce like a sword, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. I want you to ask yourself, how often have I embarrassed myself or misled others because I was slow to listen and quick to speak? There's an old saying that goes like this. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we may listen twice as much as we speak. A healthy attitude for getting along is one of respectful listening and respectful responses. Quick to listen, slow to speak. Now, can you guess the 3rd principle? Avoid the anger that harms relationships. Be slow to get angry. The focus here is our emotional response to others. We must control our tendency to get angry. I mean, come on, we are human, not stones. Sometimes people do and say things that wound us. When that happens, our feelings get hurt, we get defensive, and we get angry. But anger is poison when it comes to getting along with people. We must master it and not allow it to get out of control. I know that we are living in a culture that is progressively angry. We have road rage, airplane rage, grocery store rage. But culture may say it's okay to lose it and go off on people. Wise one says don't do it. Our culture is progressively quick to get angry. Wise one says it's slow to get angry. Does the slightest inconvenience set you off? If your spouse is a little short with you, do you go ballistic? If someone at work doesn't respond just the way you think they should, do you start to boil? Such a short fuse is a relationship killer. Think about the distorting and destructive effect of anger. Anger takes the scalpel of correction and turns it into the axe of criticism. Anger takes discipline, which builds up, and turns it into abuse, which tears down. Anger turns a person inward to the point where the only thing that matters is their feelings and their cause. Here's another proverb about anger. A quick-tempered man does foolish things. So my friend, we are to adopt an attitude that helps relationships and avoid the anger that harms relationships. So when someone wrongs you, a different question I want you to ask yourself is, do I want to win this argument or do I want to save this relationship? Because those 2 goals are often in direct conflict. Why delay makes it worse? If this conversation is landing, please like this video. It will genuinely help. Thank you. There are ways we respond to conflict that make it worse. First, climbing up. When we don't get our way, we get about pouncing, giving faces. Sometimes we engage in this kind of game with each other, sending a barrage of non-verbal signals, hoping our partner or the other person will get the message. We sulk and mope around, wanting the other person to feel guilty and to come and ask us about it, drain us out, and eventually giving in to our way of thinking. Some of us clap up, but then some of us blow up. 2. Blowing up. This is similar to what we talked about in the last part. Some of us respond by blowing up, but loud, angry arguments are almost always destructive. They can sabotage our chances of getting along faster than anything else I know of. When we lose our tempers and say more than we should, we inflict wounds on the other person and on the relationship, and that in turn makes it harder to get along. We should not clam up or blow up. We should wise up. 3. Wising up. We are either going to harm or harmonize in our relationships. If we are going to enjoy healthy relationships, we can't clam up or blow up. We've got to wise up. We usually say, I'll deal with it later. It's not that serious. I don't want to make things awkward. I want them to realize what they did to me. So we suppress it. But suppressed emotions do not disappear. They ferment. They turn into overthinking, bitterness, passive aggression, gossip, silent resentment. And what started as a small wound becomes infected. Time does not heal unresolved conflict. Time usually make it rot. That's why emotionally mature people handle issues early. They handle it quietly. They handle it directly. They handle it privately. Not publicly, not through other person, not through social media. Between two humans in a room with humility. If we want to get along with people, we have to avoid every chance of delay, resentment, or conflict. To get along, we need to look for the best in our relationships. The heart of submissive confrontation. Here's where most of us get it wrong. Confrontation is not about humiliation. It is not about shaming. It is not about proving superiority. Submissive confrontation has 3 rules. Rule 1, privacy. Personal issues are not public entertainment. The moment you involve an audience, the goal shifts from repair to performance. Rule 2, intention. You are not there to attack. You are there to restore. I say this a lot. Your energy matters more than your words. Your tone matters more than what you've got to say. Rule 3, humility. You go in assuming you might not see the whole picture, assuming they have a reason for their actions. Because the purpose is not to convict someone. The purpose is to invite them back. And that's where a shared commitment to submission comes in. The word submit translates a Greek term with a military background. To submit is to accept the authority structure in which you are placed. Submission involves subordinating personal interests for the well-being of the larger unit. In the military arena, a soldier operates within a hierarchical system of ranks that depends on unquestioned obedience to the commands of a superior officer. In a relationship and family, members operate in a climate of love and mutual support. Finding your place in the system and working for the success of the larger unit, the society, guides the very different actions of both the soldier but also of the wife, husband, child, brother, sister, or friend. In other words, the needs of the relationship outweigh any of your personal agenda. We do what is best for the sake of the relationship, not just one member of it. If you want to get along. I know that word submit certainly is not a favorite, but submitting means we choose to limit our natural inclinations so that another person benefits. In our world today, nobody wants to put the other person first, yet it's the only solution for resentment and getting along with each other. It's never been natural, and others may disapprove. However, we are following something greater than the culture here. The world tells us to accept ourselves, but the word says submit yourself. Submission is saying not my will, but what is best for all. As Richard Foster writes, submission leads to liberty. The liberty to be able to let go of the terrible weight and burden of always needing to get my own way. Restoration takes time. To get along with people, you not only need to understand conflict, why delaying it make it worse, and how submission helps neutralize it, but you also need patience. But if patience toward others seems undesirable to you, then be patient for yourself. Of course, we are human. We want results fast, but repairing a relationship and getting along again, it's not like flipping a switch. It's more like setting a broken bone. The process is slow. The process is delicate. The process is sometimes painful. Trust does not return overnight. People need time to feel safe again, to believe your intentions, to believe your consistency. And that is why patience becomes maturity. Not every apology fixes everything. Sometimes, the real work begins after the apology. The consistency in your actions matters. Your actions have to match your words. What not to do. Let me be very clear about what destroys relationships faster than almost anything. Speaking before you think, climbing up after misunderstanding, blowing up uncontrollably, turning pain into a story for others. The moment you turn a private wound into a public entertainment, you make getting along almost impossible, because now pride is involved, reputation is involved, identity is involved. And now, it's no longer about healing, it's about defending an image. Do you remember when you were younger? One of the first things you had to learn was to get along with siblings, cousins, classmates. With some, this was easy, even effortless most of the time. For others, the best you could do was just to stay away from them. But that was often hard to do since they live in the same house. In a similar way, every relationship you are in right now contains groups of people who are all stuck together. If there's someone in your life right now that you are finding it hard to get along with, that you are silently holding resentment toward, not hatred, not rage, just distance, unspoken tension, unfinished emotion, ask yourself this tonight or whenever you are watching this. Am I protecting my pride, or am I protecting something that still matters? Because majority of the time, our pride makes it hard to get along with others because we want revenge. We want them to feel what we feel. The desire for revenge is at the core of our human nature. We do not take being wronged or slighted well. If you have not said it, you have probably thought it. Or if you have not thought it, you have heard it said. I don't get mad, I get even. The problem with getting even is that when we vow to get even, we really are vowing to get more than even. That is why the wise ones thought that we can stop the cycle of revenge by turning the other cheek when wronged. Because sometimes the bravest thing we can do is not to walk away, it's to walk toward, quietly, humbly, with the intention not to win, but to restore. And if you take one practical step from this video, let it be this: handle small conflict early, in private, with humility, before time turns something small into something permanent. It is always better to deal with conflict immediately than put it off indefinitely. There you have it. If you enjoyed this conversation, be kind enough to click the subscribe button to genuinely help the channel to bring more videos like this to you. And if you're already a subscriber, don't forget to like this video and drop a comment below if you find it helpful. All that said, I will see you next week.